Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the 10th episode of Cinemafia. I am your host, Lewis. Over on my left-hand side, who do I have? Who's over here?
It's Asher. And I am me.
And
still.
Opposite myself, who do we have? It's Andrew. No, it's not. Who are you? Introduce yourself.
The Podfather's back, baby.
Okay.
It's Oscar.
Were you just waiting? Like, how long did you have that line in mind?
7 hours.
7 hours,
Wow.
Jesus. Yeah, guys, we're sorry. Andrew is not here. His father has been exiled to Siberia from some Soviet commissars. It's a long story, so we had to call in Oscar at the last minute. He was actually always planning to come. It was going to be a foursome, but
Lewis,
now it's
maybe
only...
you should stop lying to our beloved listeners.
Yeah,
and
look,
give
Andrew,
them some straight
Andrew
facts.
gave up. He said he wasn't happy with where the podcast was going.
That's
he thought
right.
he thought I was too controlling. He thought Asher was a bit too aggressive. He thought Oscar was moving in on his turf, and he just wasn't happy with how things were going. And so Oscar is now the new full-time member. He's going to be incurring a third of all the costs for the Podbean account and
right.
for all of the equipment.
You know, that's my favorite part of being on this podcast is all the money that it costs.
all the money we have to invest into it, but it's all going to pay off. And today we are looking at the legendary film, The Godfather. I'm going to pass it over to our lovely Oscar, the new Andrew, and he's going to give a little blurb. He's going to explain what the film is about. Go ahead, Oscar.
Thank you, Lewis. The film was released in 1972. Directed by Francis Ford Coppola, it is widely regarded as one of the greatest films of all time. It's a crime drama, a mob drama, based on Mario Puzo's novel of the same name. Focuses on the powerful Italian-American crime family of Don Vito Corleone, played by Marlon Brando. When the Dons... Oh...
It's okay. It's okay. You can recover.
Little bit
I
rocky.
Andrew's looking over my shoulder. When the Don's youngest son, Michael, played by Al Pacino, reluctantly joins the Mafia, he becomes involved in the inevitable cycle of violence and betrayal. Although Michael tries to maintain a normal relationship with his wife, Kay, played by Diane Keaton, he is drawn deeper into the family business.
That was a great blurb, minimal issues. And
Nice.
now, Asher, you would usually be the one doing the blurbs,
Yeah.
but now you're going to be explaining what the Cinemafia Mafia game is. Andrew's usually fantastic at this. He never messes up.
yeah.
Let's see how you go. Go ahead.
Okay, so, Cinemafia. Cinema plus Mafia. Wonder what that means. Well, it means we watch a film and then we review it while withholding specific information such as who the fuck is the Mafia. One of us is going to be lying, and it's the job of the others to determine who that is and cast aspersions, and it's the job of the Mafia to cast aspersions on people who he knows is not the Mafia.
Also known as the villagers in the Mafia game.
Villages, fuck. Yeah, shit. Yeah. If Andrew's listening to this, he should realize that by now, 10th episode, people know what the fuck we're doing.
He's not listening to this, he's dead.
Yeah.
He's living with the
Yeah,
French
didn't you
right
hear
now.
the story?
Yeah.
And Asher, where can our loyal listeners and fans go if they want to know who the Mafia is and listen along?
Just head straight to tinyurl.com/Cinemafia spoilers.
That was fantastic. So, as usual, we are going to go ahead and give our ratings, our 10 out of 10 ratings. So, sorry, not 10 out of 10, our
Yeah,
X out of
spoiler
10
alert,
ratings.
Lewis.
No, it's not a spoiler. And
Okay.
I'll go first. I have given this film an 8 out of 10.
I have
Wow.
given this film an 8 out of 10.
Wow, I've given this film an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
Well, right.
Okay. Are we sure there's a Mafia member here?
Well,
Because
boys,
Did we screw up the cards?
It's
Well,
definitely it's the red
the
card.
Mafia.
It was the red card.
the red card, yeah, the dark
Yeah,
grey one. as we
okay.
established.
Okay, well,
So
look,
one of you either rated this
like the best,
perfect,
like,
the best film ever,
or
you didn't
like an all right
yeah,
film.
okay.
That is very interesting. Okay.
Gee,
Okay.
I wonder who liked this film.
Oh, okay. For the listeners at home, Asher was making a very derogatory look and a very secretly, like you may not have heard it, he made a very derogatory comment as well at the same time towards Oscar. And that's because
Give me a dirt.
If
It's kind of
you're-
a sexual look, actually.
Well, I was going to say, but you got there first.
if you remember back, dear listeners, to our 7th episode of Seven Samurai, Oscar was going on about how he loved the film because, it established all these famous tropes that we take for granted today, and he really appreciated the history of that film in regards to cinema itself. And so, this is another very famous film,
Yes.
and Asher's, already suggesting, maybe Oscar is like, okay, this film, it was actually fantastic, it's actually a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
And we do know that, again, because Oscar was a last-minute replacement, he has actually seen this film before, just by chance. So there's a potential, like a little possibility that maybe on like a second watch, he was like, okay, wow, I'm picking up on all these other little details. We're already into the aspersions, I just realized, but it's just, we got to go on this.
I can see your logic, absolutely.
So why would you rate that an 8 out of 10?
Yeah, why don't you
Well-
go ahead and give your explanation first, and we'll all join in. Yeah.
I mean, well, first off, there are things I will forgive a film made in 1954 that I won't forgive a film made in 1974.
Okay, that's fair enough. I can believe that.
I mean, cinema is a very young medium of storytelling, and 20 years is an age. The first thing I noticed this time, this is probably like the fourth or fifth time I've seen Godfather.
Holy
wow, jeez.
And this is probably the lowest I've rated it, to be honest.
Now that you have to pretend you don't like it as much.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I should have prefaced this entire spiel with the fact that I'm not the Mafia.
I'm not the Mafia either.
Well, just wait
I'm
your
not,
turn there,
yeah,
friend.
yeah.
Just saying.
But I'm not the Mafia as well, just by chance.
Lewis, just wait your turn there.
The first thing I noticed was the cold open of the film. The dubbing was like kind of off, and I was watching his mouth move, and I was being like, "Oh, it's dubbed." And that's the first time watching this movie. Like the first thing I picked up on was kind of a little technical flaw, and something obviously in 1954 is unavoidable, and I wouldn't really care about. But I do love this movie, and I have a great fondness for it. I remember watching it when I was like 10. I mean, it's obviously the seminal Mafia movie. It's exceptionally good looking. It's a beautiful movie. The soundtrack is wonderful. It's iconic. Probably the other main detractor for me is I do love this genre, and I think the mob movie has been done better than The Godfather, and I think maybe that factors into my rating of like it's not. I don't know what I rated Seven Samurai, like a 9 or 10.
Yeah, you gave Seven Samurai a 9.
A 9, yeah. Whereas this is like the Seven Samurai is such a unique kind of movie to me. Whereas this, I'm like, I don't want to say Goodfellas too early into the podcast, but that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Okay.
If we were doing Goodfellas, sorry if you ever do Goodfellas, you probably shouldn't because it's just so perfect. But
We just won't have you on for that one. Or perhaps any other episode, come to think of it.
But yeah, this is a minorly, technically flawed film that maybe could have been tightened up in a few places, but I still love it. I do love this movie.
So you're critiquing the actual craft of the film, not really the storytelling.
I think maybe the craft of the storytelling. I think there are certain subplots that maybe either are unimportant or could have been tightened. It is a 3-hour film.
Yeah.
So we did watch another 3-hour film. This film probably went faster for me than Seven Samurai.
Yeah, I feel that.
I guess so, yeah.
But it's that old school story. You just everything's stretched out, and there are some times where this, I don't know, maybe it's even in the mood I'm in where I'm just like, nah, I get it. You can stop this now. But yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and give my thoughts then. I'm actually not going to. I feel like usually whenever I give my thoughts on the films, I always go on like a 2 or 3 minute like spiel. But today I've actually summarized my notes nicely, so I can just go through some keywords.
Way to make me look bad.
Oh, so no. That was more me, having a go at myself because I feel like I take up too much screen time in the episode sometimes. So power politics. I really enjoyed this idea because you think of Mafia, like the stereotypical idea is like people just going out and killing. And even though there were some very iconic scenes, many of them which were death scenes in this film, I really enjoyed just those moments where it's just guys sitting down and meeting with the fellow members of their enemy rival families, and you can just see like the tension in the room as they're fighting but with word, because it's like we don't need to bring in the guns right now. They do it later, but they don't need to do it right then because it's all about power politics. It's about I have control over you, you have control over me, so that's why we're not going at each other's throats right away. Another thing I really enjoyed was the focus on the idea of family, because again, like when you think of mobs, you think they're unethical, they deal in drugs, they deal in firearms, prostitutes, they have no morals, but they're constantly almost hitting you over the head with the idea that it's not just about making money and being evil. These people are people. They do they still care about people in their lives. They have family members, they have friends that they care about, and there are little details where it's just like, I can't remember his name, but when they're backing out of one of the houses and the guy's like, hey, just be careful of the kids, and when there's one of the guards, I think it's Sonny, when he's meant to be guarding and the family kids, they're just running around and the ball goes over to him and he just picks it up and throws it back. It's those little moments where it's like, oh, you can see, they're not hitting you over the head with it. It's just the guys, they're just getting along with the family, because even though they're a mob boss, it's entirely built around the family. Actually, you look like you were like comatose just listening to me.
I'm just leaning away.
Same way you look during the movie, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just leaning away from the microphone while I breathe heavy like.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess I'll just quickly summarize now. Great acting from The Godfather and from Michael. I was really sad when The Godfather had the assassination attempt, because I actually thought, oh, he's actually dead now. He's only in the film for an hour and now he's gone, because I thought, even though I did have a bit of difficulty understanding what he was saying, I was like, wow, he's a very interesting character. His character work was fantastic. He has like those little gestures he does with his hands when he's making, where he's like curls his hand towards him when he's making a little scratch, and the way he holds his jaw, where his lips never touch. He's always holding his jaw as if it's like, like 10 kgs being held down. He's just a very distinct character. He's one of the most distinct characters in film. I totally understand why he's so highly regarded for his role here. And I thought Michael, as he sort of moved into the role of becoming the new Don of the family and being less about being like not really a joker, but someone who's not as caring about leading the family, I thought he did a fantastic job as he becomes more violent and more ruthless as he takes over. And finally, I've already talked about some of the iconic scenes. I'll go more in depth later on. There were so many famous lines, and just alongside the iconic scenes, these are ones that I've only ever heard about or seen in parodies or in pop culture. Like, I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse, sleep with the fishes. There are a few more, but yeah, this film was iconic. But my main issue is the length. I do think, unlike Seven Samurai, I don't think it made great use of its time, and I do think there were some moments where I was a bit bored. There were moments where I did enjoy the power politics of just people meeting and planning and strategizing, and other moments where I was like, okay, this could, you could probably pick things up a bit. And now I'm going to pass it over to Asher, and I realized I said I wasn't going to go on a spiel, but I did, so apologies for that.
Well, thank you, Lewis, because now I don't need to roast you for that specific issue.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I will. Fuck you, Lewis, for taking so long.
Sorry, man.
When you said that you specifically wouldn't.
I know, dude. I can't control myself sometimes.
No, you can't. All right. Now, but, of course, you've all said the same things that I'm thinking. Lewis, you're right.
Or the same things that you're faking.
Oh, boy.
He didn't even preface this talk with the fact that he's not the Mafia.
I'm not the Mafia, boys.
I prompted
Maybe
you.
it's Andrew.
Maybe it's Andrew.
Yeah. Basically, I agree with what you said, Lewis. You did a really good job distilling, what it's like to watch this film as a newcomer. Specifically, I'd just like to say I really appreciated how all of the shooting attempts and the assassinations actually took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting them when they happened. With Don Corleone at first, that was really out of the blue. I was quite surprised, and I really did think he was dead based on Fredo's reaction.
Same.
And then the shooting of Sonny was also pretty surprising, because I thought, oh shit, yeah, we're going to get the fucking delivery on his promise to kill the bastard.
Yeah.
And that also took me by surprise that he, the bastard, was in cahoots and organized that somehow. That's pretty clever, of him to, beat his wife at the right time to get her to call Sonny over, and he knew it'd go that way. And
I
so
didn't
boom,
take
boom,
it as
boom.
being an intentional strategy. I sort of took it as on the fly. He was like, oh shit. Because he was there at the time when he's beating his wife, and then he probably figured out that the wife, because he's already been beaten up by her brother, so he probably figured, okay, I've just beaten her within an inch of her life.
He said, I'm going to kill you next time. He said, I'm going to kill you if you touch
so
my
maybe
wife.
that was his defense.
Yeah, I think that was
He
just-
He's
shit.
like, this is my only option left.
Yeah,
to
I
stay
think that was
alive.
on the fly. I don't think it was like some mastermind strategy.
I'm going to beat her on the
Okay.
15th of March and then call him on the 12th and organise it all.
And then he's going to drive right over. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm convinced it's less interesting now. Great. Yeah, I liked this a lot. I thought that the soundtrack did a lot of the work setting the tone of each scene. And there are a few tense sort of tracks which I was trying to pick out. Where the fuck have I heard something just like this before?
It might have just been replicated. It might have just been copied.
It's very similar. Like the hospital scene, the music playing throughout that hospital scene was very reminiscent of like other sort of modern 2000s sort of thriller tense scenes. I'm thinking like Saw soundtrack, but not really. I don't really know what I'm thinking. But
That's good.
excellent acting. No fancy camera work, which I kind of respected. It's all just like still shots. And even at the beginning, I liked the drawn out aspect of the party, the wedding, and how some of the shots looked like you could have just been a wedding videographer, just in the midst of it. Everything happening around you. I noticed a lot of celebrity lookalikes. Like
God, he was making a lot of comments
Tom,
throughout
the
the film.
consigliere, looked like Harvey Specter from Suits, who was also a lawyer. Sonny, the violent son, looks like Ben Affleck. And
I don't get that at all. I don't think he
There
looks
was
like
one
him.
scene.
Michael Al Pacino, of course, looks like Dustin Hoffman, but that's not new. And Mo Green, the casino mogul, looks like a mix between Jeff Goldblum and Harrison Ford.
I see that actually. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So that was not to say that was distracting me from the movie, but it was just, irrelevant, interesting things that I got out of it. I really liked how at the end you see Michael take on the characteristics of his father. He's talking gently
Yep.
and seriously, and he's brutal.
And he's having his like ring kissed and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really sets it up for that.
And becomes a literal
sequel.
godfather as well, which is cool.
Yeah, literal godfather. Just like his father was a literal godfather to someone else's son.
Yeah.
And yeah, so apparently this Godfather 2 is an excellent sequel.
Yeah, apparently it's even better.
It's wonderful, guys.
So I'm looking
wonderful.
forward to seeing that. We won't be reviewing it, but we'll just watch that.
Yeah, in our own time.
Yeah, in our own time.
Without each other.
Yeah, fuck you, listeners. What?
Yeah.
Oh, is that weird? No.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fuck.
God, are you done? You've been going on for hours now.
I'm done. Yeah. I don't
No,
know.
do you have any further comments? You can repeat stuff that Oscar and I have said. It helps your case because I'm still suspicious of you.
Okay, so the lack of
Yeah.
hard-coded subs,
Oh,
I guess I appreciate.
But I think that was intentional in some
Yeah.
scenes.
Yeah.
I think
that's what- yeah.
not being able to tell what they're talking about heightens your kind of like engagement. You're like, what? Oh,
Yeah.
so you have to read their body language and kind of read the tension.
it builds up
yeah.
the mystique of the mafia lifestyle where it's like they live in
Yeah.
this, they literally live in this other world with this other language we don't understand.
Yes, and so much of, even as you were saying, the tension of those mafia meetings
Yeah.
comes from the subtext of like
Yeah.
you're not actually saying what you're saying.
At the meeting with the police chief and the Solazzo, I think his name was,
Yeah.
and Michael, where Michael shoots them and has to leave the country for Sicily. That I'm going to speak to Michael in Italian right now, and you're thinking, okay, this is going to be interesting. Maybe we should team up and shoot the police chief, blah blah blah. And there weren't even the subtracks that we had didn't actually cover that aspect.
Yeah.
We had to guess what they were saying, and I could follow a little bit of it or the tone of it. But the work on that scene was so good that I had no idea whether Michael would actually follow through with the original plan. I thought maybe he's going to shoot the police chief and
Yeah.
these two Italians are going to finish their lovely meal. But no, shoots them square in the face.
Yeah.
And that took me again by surprise. Like that was one that I knew was happening and going to happen, but it still took me by surprise because I had my doubts.
I can segue off of that into this time round. My main gripe with the movie is that, as you say, every hit is kind of unexpected. Wonderfully, you're kind of like, wow, he's going to die now. But every single hit is, even for a film made in 1972, it's really unrealistically weird.
Yeah.
And like the Don, like the first kind of hit in the movie, I think, or no, this happens
It
after
is.
Luca Brasi, actually. The first shooting.
Yeah.
Is, Marlon Brando. It's a great shot. It's really weird. It's from up above. It's kind of at an angle.
It's like from an apartment
Right.
above,
It's like a voyeuristic kind of
Yeah.
view. And he gets shot like 10 times at point blank range.
In
And
the
his
back.
coat, in the back, and his coat is pristine. And then it cuts and his coat has all these buttonholes in it and there's blood oozing out. And then they say later on, oh, he got shot 5 times. And it's like, no, he didn't.
Yeah.
He got shot like 50 times.
Yeah.
But he had a flak jacket on. He had a ballistic vest.
Did he?
underneath. Yeah, that we saw him getting dressed.
I think that was
That
someone
was
else.
Luca
wasn't it?
Brasi.
Yeah, that was someone else.
Wait,
What?
That was
Yeah.
Luca Brasi, because then they seen Luca Brasi with the fishes in the ballistic vest.
Oh shit!
And Luca Brasi got choked out. But then, like, Mo Green, like, in the end, obviously, like, the last scene is one of the most
How
powerful
the fuck
scenes in
did he
the movie.
survive that?
It's ridiculous.
I mean, it's
damn
probably safe to assume he probably also had a flak jacket on. Like, you can probably imagine
but
that.
he didn't because he was bleeding out his back. And it was totally
Yeah.
unexpected.
It could have
He
been.
did not have a flak jacket.
Maybe one
He
got him in the shoulder or something. And
No,
went
there
through.
was
Who
one
knows?
at least lower back on the
There
left
was,
that was
he
bleeding.
got shot at point blank range. Like, in the world of the film,
By
5
two
times and
dudes
he was
with
fine.
pistols.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mo Green gets shot in the glasses and his glasses crack. And then, like, blood oozes out of his eye as he, like, his head just slowly drifts down.
I enjoyed that because I thought that was very stylistic. I like how we see like the bullet hole and then the blood comes like a moment later. I feel that's more dramatic,
Okay.
even if it's like more unrealistic.
But there's also Louis' restaurant where the shooting of the constable and then
Yes.
they get shot in the head and the neck.
Yeah.
And he's still like, oh,
He
I'm
got
dying.
shot. There's a bullet wound in his forehead, and he's going, "Bah!" And it's like, you're just making me. It's like a goofy like horror movie all of a sudden. I'm like, no, just if someone gets shot in the head in a mob movie, I like the instantaneous bang, you're dead.
Yeah.
I like that. It's like a point to click, boom. And I love that cessation of life. And I hate it when the guy's
Whoa.
sitting there, well,
Yeesh.
within the context of
Yeah, I know what you
movies.
mean.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the
Yeesh.
hits had and even when Sonny takes like 50 bullets and then gets out of the car,
Yeah.
and then takes 50 more bullets, I'm like, I know it's a dramatic scene, and I know,
Yeah.
but it again, I was like, oh, okay, I'm getting pulled out of the drama of it now, and yeah, I don't know if that was because it's like my fifth time watching or what, but
That was something for me where I actually thought it added to the film, because even though they are over the top, that's what I'm sort of expecting, because as opposed to the rest of the film, because like a very small majority of this, a very small part of this film is made up of the killings. As I said, it's mostly like power politics, everyone sitting down and strategizing and intimidating each other. So when those death scenes came, I thought they were very iconic. Like I think the first really shocking death scene, it wasn't really a killing scene, it was just showing the effects. It was when that movie producer or director, when his beloved horse, when the horse's head is at his
yeah.
feet, and when we just see the camera slowly
blood.
moving towards him, and we can see, oh, there's some blood on his shoulder, and then it's on his hand, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, his dick has been cut off. But then that's what I was thinking, because I was like, you know, maybe they like, I don't know, injected him with
you
something.
think he's been hurt.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
implication.
And then it's his beloved horse. There were also Santino's death scene where, you know, he's waiting for like the fare to go through. He's like, oh, come on, this car move, and then you can see that the conductor, he drops a coin or something,
Drops
so
the
he can
change,
he
yeah.
can duck down, and then just like 50 guys shoot him. I thought it was cool because you can see him, he's trying to escape, and as he gets out, it's the actual bullets themselves that are keeping him up, because he's getting shot so many times
From all
that
directions.
it's like they're keeping him up, because the
Sure.
bullets, like every little bit of the bullet is holding up a bit of his body from actually like collapsing. It's saving him like maybe half a second before he actually collapsed.
Yes.
I also thought the final scene with Carlo, I thought that was a fantastic death scene, because I actually did think, okay, maybe Michael is going to be like, you know, I want you out of my sight, because my father, he always taught me about the importance of family, and so I'm not going to kill you. I care too much about my sister. And
No, he
then
said, why would I make my sister
Yeah,
a widow?
exactly.
Would
Yeah.
I? Would I? And so
Exactly.
he's emphasizing,
Yeah.
would I?
And you as an audience member go, no, you wouldn't.
Yeah,
do that,
exactly.
Michael.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
And then you see the guy behind him as he gets into the car. He starts like garroting him, and then his legs just crash through the windscreen as the car speeds off. It was fantastic.
Well, it doesn't even speed off. It just sort of drives off.
Well, like you hear the car. It's not that like they start going at 10 kilometers. They do go like, "Rah," and it starts going off.
It's as much as I critique, I think it's the gunshots, and maybe it's just due to the technical effects. But one thing I will absolutely praise those scenes for is each one of those hit scenes gives you just enough time to start to go, hang on, something's off here. You just start to go, oh, okay. Like I can't. Is it Paulie, the guy who gets shot right out of town?
Yeah, in the
There's
car.
this beautiful sequence of shots. They're in urban New York,
was
and they're
great.
joking, laughing. Then they're driving out, and then New York's in the background. Then finally, there's just like fields in the background, like.
I'm gonna go take a piss.
Yeah.
And
he
I'm going to
walks
go
off.
take a bus, and you got the Statue of Liberty up there, and it's just, you just start to go, oh.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, okay, this is happening. And Ash just said out loud, he's going to get shot, isn't he?
Yeah.
And it was like, and the film just lets you have that realization, and then boom, 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 you get the gunshots. I love that. It's
Leave the pistol.
Perfect build
Take
up.
the cannoli.
Yeah. What are the iconic lines?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's yeah, Lewis already said this, but like picking out all those bits, like, oh, that's where that's from.
Yeah.
Neat.
There were also scenes, I'm not sure if I've already said this, but there were scenes where I'd only ever noticed them in parodies or like, you know, pop culture references. So three that stood out to me. This probably was a thing before this film, but the idea of the Mafia members sending each other fish in the mail as like a sign of like, you know, death. That's like a very cool scene. There's also the car explosion scene where it has the cut from Michael going, you know, no, wait, then it cuts to it just totally blown up. You can actually see a bit of his wife, like as she was
Yeah,
entering
that was a
the
touch.
car.
That,
Yeah, that was
you
a
can,
nice
you can
little
see
touch.
her leg out there, and that's usually, you know, in these films where the car explodes, you see a little cut or whatever, and the car explodes.
Yeah,
oh,
and you
there's
don't
no
see
one in
any
that
It's just
car.
a car
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, it's just an empty husk. But you saw that.
Yeah,
There was some
and I
death
think
there.
Dress
I think the
and
most
stuff,
famous scene is the final scene where you have Michael lying to his new wife, saying, you know, of course I wouldn't do this, and then she's like, oh, okay, and then she's like feeling reassured, and she leaves the room. But then you see Michael, she's like invited him to come out
Yeah,
for a
come
drink,
have a
and he's
drink.
like, yeah, I'll be there. Or he says something like that. He sort of dismisses her, and then he continues going about his business, and you can see the men going up to him, showing respect, showing that he's the authority, and then they slowly, one of the men walks towards the door while looking at his wife and closes it, sort of, you know,
It
saying,
looks
you're not
apologetically
yeah,
at her.
and it's like, you know, you're not in this world. You have to be separated from this, sort of,
Yeah.
you know, confirming for her that there is something that is going on with her husband. He isn't exactly, like, he's not being honest with her. I thought that's one of the most famous scenes, and I've seen that parodied a bunch of times, most notably in The Simpsons, where they did a very similar mafia story with Fat Tony, who's our favorite mobster, you know, on The Simpsons, obviously, of all the
yeah, sure, man.
mobsters
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
The Simpsons.
What you said.
Yeah, so
Well, I'd just like to point out that I find it kind of unrealistic that the wife would be, that clueless, or like that the women in the family seem to just have been so protected and shielded about, what's going on, that it strikes me as kind of unrealistic. Not to say that it's, anti-feminist or anything, but it's just still not realistic. That, if you've made this film nowadays, obviously the women that would be being kept in the dark about this, there'd be arcs about them more solidly finding out, and maybe they'd either get in on it or be a real problem. And I thought it'd be more realistic to have to deal with your wife who's really finding out, and like, shit, she's gonna rat me out, she has a higher moral conscience here, she's a problem.
We did sort of see that with the sister, because it wasn't exactly to do with the mafia itself, but you were sort of seeing the violent side of her husband, because we do know, I don't think he was actually involved in the family. He wanted to be. I think he was involved in some other family or some other sort of, underhanded crime at the time. Yeah, Carlo.
He was in the family, and so his punishment was to no longer be in the family business.
So we did see her sort of coming to terms with, well, this is what this person who I married is actually like, and sort of getting an idea about what the family is like. And then at the end, we do actually see her come to terms with that, because she was originally begging Sonny not to go after her brother, and then the brother got killed when he was trying to, and then Michael successfully went after Carlo. And so I think she's the only one who really comes to terms with it, and it drives her pretty much crazy, because like, even though it was meant to be dismissive, she actually is hysterical at the time, because she's crying and she's going from embracing her brother because she's so lost to being distraught and actually like, hitting him, because she's like, no, even though I really want close connection right now, I do remember what you did to me. So I think she does come to terms with it, but she just goes crazy from it.
I agree. That is a very effective arc she has, but it's not the arc that I think Asher is talking about, because I agree with you. And it's the thing with Kay, is like, that's the character that needs to have that kind of arc, because the sister is part of the Corleone family. She's grown up in it. She's been eased into it. She's obviously been sheltered, but she's also been subjected to a lot of this kind of chat. She kind of knows what's happening. Whereas, the first thing I wanted to say when you said that is like, so much of Goodfellas revolves around that. And that's why I love Goodfellas, is because like, the whole family thing feels so much more realistic, which I can't even remember the Goodfellas wife's name, but she has the exact arc. You were just being like, that feels natural to have that.
Right. Oh, that's cool.
I do think that they did a good job hinting at how Kay's going to figure it out, because we do see her accusing Michael, being like, is this true? And then she thinks she can be reassured. And then that's the important...
Too.
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
going to say there's probably room for that.
This arc does continue.
Yeah, cool. Because that's the importance of the final scene, where we see her looking rather coldly at Michael, he's focusing on his men, and then the men go and close the door while looking at her, and we have that shot of her as she sees the door closing. So I think that is her realizing, okay, I thought I was reassured, but there really is something going on here.
Yeah.
So even if she didn't totally discover the entire workings of the family, I feel like that is showing she is going to figure it out.
And on top of that, I mean, she left Michael when Michael left the country, and Michael had this huge arc, had a marriage,
he
lost
left
his
her.
wife. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But Michael's gone, so she left. She left Michael. Michael left her when she had a very specific idea of him, and he went through a whole ton of shit and came back a changed man. And so she's still kind of interacting with him as if he's the same character, but she doesn't know he's been through so much shit and he's actually changed. And like, so that's why she's kind of like, it's a bit alien to her what he's become.
Yeah, I guess I was kind of disappointed that Michael didn't confide in his wife, that with his, ex-girlfriend at the time, actually, that I left and I actually got married and she died, and that meant a lot to me. And honestly, you could help me out here, because I still care about you.
I mean,
and blah,
I think
blah,
he
blah.
was playing...
That's not the film that was made.
Yeah, I feel like
It's
if
just
he
a
said
different
that,
film.
that totally would have driven her away, and he knows that, because what he needed was some closeness. Like, he wanted to, start a family just like his father had, because, he drills into him, the importance of his family. That's why there's a little scene where it's like, we're not taking this photo until Michael's here. Where's Michael?
Yes,
and
that was in my notes.
And the entire thing.
That's one of the first things is like, wait, and that's just such a fantastic
Yeah, exactly. A little thing. It's not like a big deal. It's not like, big dramatic music or camera shots. It's just a little throwaway line. And all throughout the film, it's about Michael coming to understand the family, taking the throne.
Yes.
And I really liked
and
how...
Michael brings in Kat into the family photo
Yeah,
again,
exactly,
actually,
exactly.
in that scene.
Just before that, there's a great little scene where Michael first introduces the make him an offer he can't refuse thing, and he says, he's talking about this anecdote and saying, well, my father said you can either have your brains or your signature on the thing, and he says, and she goes, she's shocked. Kay's just going, oh my God, and he goes, it's a true story. And I was looking at him like, I can't tell if he's ashamed or if he's proud in that moment. He's going, it's a true story. And there's a kind of mixture of emotion in his face. And it's like, oh my God, they're already laying the groundwork.
And to read into that film, he was in his army clothes. He was a decorated soldier.
Yeah.
And so that really drew the whole, this guy
he was
is on
the
the
hope
straight
of the
and narrow.
family.
He's the hope of the family. And he's probably, you know, not all into the brutal murders and stuff. But we later see that he's all for it.
And Sonny's a hothead. Fredo's an idiot. We see Sonny like screwing some chick upstairs and pacing around the party, and Fredo wanders up drunk, and then Michael's clear-headed. The first real long scene we have with Michael is when he's in the hospital and he solves a real big problem on his feet.
That was very cool.
And it's like this big moment where you go, as an audience member, you go, wow, Michael's the heir apparent.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden you just go, oh, he's the one. And no one wants him to be, but all of a sudden you're realizing, oh, there's an inevitability about the fact that Michael's going to become the Don.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of how they have the Godfather passing on like the mantle to Michael, and like first we see him when he's like all worn down and he's sort of like forgetting his talks with Michael, where he's like, you know, remember to call this person. It's like, I've already told you that. I've done this. Oh yeah, I forgot. And then he's basically, because of his knowledge of being in the mafia business for so long, he's like, okay, whoever comes and tells you that you're going to have a meeting, that you should have a meeting with this guy, he's the one that's going to assassinate you. And then you see him with a connection, like one final connection, like highlighting his importance to the family. He's trying to play with his grandson, and when he's like puts in those things in his teeth, I'm not sure what it was. It might have been like
oranges.
It might have been,
he cuts teeth out of an orange.
Yeah, it might have been, yeah. And then he tries to like, you know, play along, and the kid is actually scared, and it's like, oh, that's sad, because this guy, he's been in this business for so long that like this has changed him, where he can't even really play along with his kids, because what he's gone through has actually made him such a terrifying person.
Yeah.
And then you see him running through, what do you call them?
Tomatoes.
Yeah, were they tomatoes? I thought I saw oranges on there.
Tomato
They were Italian tomatoes. They were long tomatoes.
Yeah, just running through the lines of them and trying to play with his kid, and his kid's getting along with him, and then I don't know, like heart attack or something, something like that. Yeah, it's tragic, because it's like he thought that he had to, you know, go through the mafia business and be, you know, dirty and, you know, criminal in order to actually protect his family, and that ends up being the thing that ends up costing him his actual connection with his family. So it's pretty sad, and it's sort of implied that that's going to be the path that Michael goes on as well if he continues going down this road.
Right. I didn't really read it as that dark. I thought I didn't actually read into that the child seeing his grandfather as a monster and scaring. It's good, probably what was intended. But I read it that Don Corleone had a good death, that he was playing with his grandson.
A human moment. It was
very
really
human,
earthy little.
And
death.
he died in the Italian tomatoes. And just so you know, these are Italians, and so I thought that was quite a good way to go.
Do you get it?
Yeah, you know, blood and soil. Yeah,
but
Jesus.
Wow.
Wait, that's a Nazi thing.
Yeah, blood and soil.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Blood.
I was literally just thinking, you know, from dust to dust, and
blood
the
and
tomatoes and the dry soil.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I
blood and
condemn
soil.
all Nazis, by the way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's edit that out of the final cut.
No, we're making that our opening line.
No, but I was just thinking about him dying in the tomatoes as quite a powerful moment.
I just need to catch my breath for a second.
I was going to segue into the fact that I haven't talked about Marlon Brando's performance in this. Marlon Brando's performance in this is what probably the closest thing we have nowadays is Heath Ledger's Joker. That's something as quoted, as referenced. This was the performance to imitate, to dress up as, to be... You know, what we talked about early on, he's got the little cat in his hands.
Yeah.
That's one of the first instances.
It's
of
only
villain.
there in one scene, and that's such an iconic... That's crazy.
So many villains have had... Like, the first scene where he's holding that cat, and it's like this... And you said, like, there's not a lot of great, like, or intricate camera work, but there's amazing shot compositions, amazing production design. The Don, at least in the first third of the movie, when he's at the peak of his powers, it seems like his face is always shadowed, that you can't see his eyes. His eyes have these black shadows around them, like the light is kind of shining down. You can't quite make out the features of his face. And he's this extremely powerful man holding this picture of innocence in his hand, and it's just like... You just feel like he could just crush that kitten at any second. Like, he's just got so much power. But also, Marlon Brando was only like 40 when he played this guy. And he plays an old man so well. He got extensive makeup. He had a mouthpiece.
I generally thought he was like 60 or something.
Exactly.
Wow.
He does it so, and he has the mouthpiece that makes his cheeks go down. And and that keeps it open. So like he looks so distinctive, so unique. He has the cadence. Like it's not, it's such a unique character. It's wonderfully done. And like a lot of people relate The Godfather to this performance, but he's in like a fifth of the movie.
Yeah.
He's the gravitational center of the plot that when the hit happens on him, so much revolves around it. But he's not in it that much.
Yeah, he was missing from the middle quite significantly. And that was one of my issues with the film, because I thought he was such a prominent figure that they built up for like the first hour, and then for him to be so weak and dismissive. And I did appreciate how they used that to build up Michael, but at the same time I was like, I really want to see more of this guy's performance.
Yeah.
Even though I did have a big difficulty understanding what he was saying because of that mouthpiece.
Yes, it was good we had subtitles on
exactly.
at one point. Because when he comes back, there's an amazing change, and he's much weaker, much more hoarse, and he moves it's not over the top either, it's just different enough that this is a changed man.
Yep.
And I appreciate that, even though he got shot a billion times.
Yeah, I thought that his scene when he's mourning over the death of Sonny was very moving, because you can see he's a guy, as I've said, he's gone through all this stuff, he's trying to be strong, and you can see him sort of like crumbling inside, he's getting all choked up, and I thought it was really cool. The first thing, he's so wise, he's like, no more violence, I don't want any revenge kills, because he wants to end this, because, it's back to family. Even though he's just lost a family member, he doesn't want to lose any more. He wants to, put everything to rest. So yeah, that was what I really enjoyed about his character. And I guess I enjoy the Godfather himself more than Michael, just because you see Michael is going down the path which the Godfather himself has gone down, but that's also what I like about the theme of the film itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like the Godfather, I love the little moment when Tom, where's Michael, he says in bed. It's like the first thing he says since he's woken up, where's Michael? And Tom goes, oh, Michael actually did the hit. And he just does this tiny hand movement, like, get out. And you can just see him, just collapsing, like, oh my God. Like, it's as if he knows all of this is going to happen now. And then he never resists Michael's takeover from there. Then it's like that, all of it happens in that one moment. He goes, okay. It's like he always knew this was going to happen. It's wonderful. I'm confused because we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Yep.
What is the main thing you guys didn't like?
The main thing I didn't like, I'll say, I've already talked about the Godfather's death. I thought it took quite a while. Even though there were a few interesting scenes, I did like Michael when he's sort of taking control of the hospital. I thought, okay, this is the first scene where I was really seeing him, step up and take control. But then I thought the death scene, the shooting scene, I thought that was very cool. But then when he went to Sicily and then it was his turn to be out of action for so long, apart from the cool death scene with his wife in the car, I wasn't too interested in that. I thought the film really grind to a halt at that point, and I was less interested. And I understand it was important, the idea of how he's committed this big crime, all the families are going to be against them, and then it's, killings on both sides. We see that montage of all the deaths in the newspapers. So it makes sense for him to leave, but I just thought the actual scenes we saw him in Sicily weren't that interesting.
Yes.
So that was one of my issues.
I totally agree. It grinds to a halt in all of those scenes, and even their romance is kind of romanticized in a way. They don't even talk, and he's like, I'm gonna marry her, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Why do you want to marry her? All of a sudden, it's like, you need to go back to America.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you're gonna marry, and then they marry, and they haven't talked yet. Then they have like one scene, and you're like, what is the point of this? And I guess it is like a big chunk out of Michael it eventually takes, and that was the point of it all, that it really pushes him, it thrusts him into the position of the Don now. He's lost something. He's kind of more callous and cold, but getting there was a bit clunky.
I also had an issue with, maybe this is just me, but I had an issue following everything, because there are so many other characters, and there are like, some people who are trying to like work alongside the families. I couldn't tell if some people actually double crossing, or if they actually just, parlaying with the members. And I had a bit of difficulty following all those storylines because there are so many characters. The only characters' names I really remember are the Godfather, Don Corleone, Michael, Carlo, and Sonny. And there are way more members, and just because I didn't think many of the side characters were very distinct, which is why I had an issue being able to distinguish them, just because I was like, okay, is this guy? So maybe it's just an issue on my end, but I did have difficulty trying to follow along to all the little side stories of, who's this guy? What's his relevance here? How does he connect to this person? Because it's all these various business deals, going in drugs and casinos and hotels. So I had a bit of difficulty following all that stuff. I feel like that's something where I'd have to get all the details on a second run.
Yeah, and then, again, like, this is my fourth or fifth watch, and I was this time again is probably the only time I've got everyone's individual arc of where they begin and where they end, and I started to pick up a little bit more of the kind of setup where they begin and where they end. But still, it's dense.
Yeah.
A 3 hour runtime allows for a lot of a lot of those things. They can build up and get confusing.
Well, a lot of what you've said, Lewis, is what I agree with. The intricacies of the plot not really coming out for me for some characters, especially the guy with the ballistic jacket who gets garroted. I didn't connect those two. I thought, whatever, it was the Don who had the ballistic jacket.
Just to be clear, garroting is an actual type of death. It's when you get the wires and you start...
Yeah, you know the guy at the bar who had his hand stabbed.
Was he garroted
Luca
as...
Brasi.
Oh, sorry, you're talking about him. Yes, he was garroted as well. My bad.
He's set up as such an important character and dies, and he's never mentioned again.
Yeah, I was a bit confused by that, but also confused by who specifically killed him and what this barman was, and blah, blah, blah. But also, I didn't... And I guess this is kind of an asinine gripe. I just don't think that these guys can get away with all this, like from the law.
It was the 40s.
Yeah,
In America.
Yeah,
New York City.
But like, you shoot someone point blank in a restaurant.
Did they have fingerprinting technology?
Yeah, they did.
I think they did.
You drop the gun on the ground. It's got tape on it, whatever the fuck that means. They didn't establish why this gun is the perfect, he said, cold gun. He said it was, unregistered, whatever. But it's just, I don't think he should be able to get away with that easily.
That's a conceit
just
that
by
the
leaving.
entire genre falls into, though,
They
right?
did. They did go into
and also
detail
don't want to
about-
criticize, how could these mafia things, have lasted, because they did. They were real.
Exactly.
Blah blah blah.
This shit did happen.
I think they did enough sort of like minor attention, because they said how we've got politicians and we have lawyers covered, and they did say how they
Everyone's in
actually
the back
had
pocket.
they had rats like in the police itself.
Yeah, I'm not
and they
talking
had
about
rats
the
in
main,
news.
the whole enterprise, but specifically why Michael leaving to Sicily was so important. That
Whereas a ton of other characters killed people and didn't have to flee the
and
country.
it's like, well, if the police really cared, they'd be able to interview everyone who was in the restaurant, and they'll be able to say, well, he was an Italian-looking guy,
Right.
kind of short, had a bruise on his face, and then they're thinking, I wonder who could that be? Is it, say, the one brother of this family who's been missing for a few months, who's just inexplicably the one who's not there? No, it can't be that.
Did they actually know that he was missing though? That's the
Well,
thing.
see,
They
I
would have
think-
just
I think
investigated.
The reason he was
But
missing
how
it
would they
because
know
they
that
did know it was him, right?
Well, yeah, him
Because
missing
they got
for
rid
his
of him because
protection.
it was going to be obvious. But like,
I didn't think that was to do with the police. I thought that was just because they were worried about the other families going after him. I thought it was
yeah,
it was
exactly.
Oh, okay, I thought
Because-
Asher was talking about the
because
police.
He's an important chess piece on the mafia board. It's like if you're
Yeah.
going to send one of your henchmen to kill someone, whatever.
Yeah.
But if it's a son,
Yeah, the heir.
he was the only one who could get the meeting. He was the only one who could do the hit. So it's like,
But
do
it's-
it and then get him out of the country and protect him until it blows over.
Sure, yeah, but it's not going to blow over because you just killed the chief of police. Like, there's no way that they would have just gone,
But then they've got the papers in the
can't-
back pocket, and they're like, we can tarnish his reputation.
Sure.
You've got the newspaper headlines,
Yeah,
saying like,
okay.
oh, he was involved in drugs, he was involved with crime.
That's another gripe of this this film. So this whole film
gripes
I've
coming
read,
out, Mr. 8 out of
it's an
10.
overarching anti-drug.
It was
narrative.
not overarching
It's-
at all.
shush,
It is
shush.
like two
This
scenes.
This is a.
It's two throwaway lines.
Excuse me, Lewis. This is
Mr. Legalized Cannabis.
this is a pro-alcohol, anti-narcotics film. Because when during the Don's last scene when he's talking with Michael and he imparts that advice, he says, "I've been drinking a lot more recently," and Michael says, "That's good for you, pup." It's like, what the fuck?
I think
I mean, that is
but also the anti-drug
that is a
narrative,
line-
blah, blah.
actually saying it's good. I
Yeah.
think he's like, Dad, you're retired.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Sure.
Forget
Also,
about
You
it.
know, I am making a mountain out of a
Yeah.
molehill, but I do actually quite like the moral code that is
Yeah.
displayed by the mafia, and that they don't want to get into the
Yeah.
drugs.
Yeah, they don't want it to go
Blah,
into
blah,
the
blah.
children,
Honor
that sort
in
of thing.
it.
They don't want it
Yeah.
around the schools.
Don't
It's
want it
cool.
around schools, like
Yeah.
you said, yeah, and they don't want it sold to kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the
but
first
yeah.
scene, there's that whole honor above law thing, where like the first scene, the guy's coming to him saying, "I went to the police, they didn't
Yeah.
do anything, so I've come to you for justice."
Yep.
And it's like it's this amazing subversive form of morality where it's like you're supposed to believe these guys are operating on a moral code, and that
Yeah.
does pay off in that scene where
Sure.
the Don gets up and he's like, "I don't want this shit in the neighborhood."
And all of the heads of the mafia were like, "Hell yeah, we agree on this.
Yeah.
Drugs are bad, but
Yeah.
murdering people is fine."
then one guy
yeah.
gets up and he's like, "But I'm selling a lot of drugs right now. It's pretty good. I won't
Yeah.
sell it to the kiddies, but
Yeah.
can I sell a little bit?" And everyone's like, "Agreed. We'll sell a little bit of the drugs."
Exactly. I think that didn't that didn't, you know,
And
that
they
didn't
do
work
talk
out
about
right.
the woman, which you have to take as meaning prostitution.
Prostitution, yeah.
So, and you have to assume there's probably a bit of abuse going on in the prostitution. I don't think it's
yeah.
totally
I
like,
mean,
oh yeah.
there's abuse going on in their legitimate family marriages. So
Yeah,
who knows
exactly.
what's going
Yeah.
on?
Well, look, we've been going for about 45 minutes now.
Oh, boy.
I think we should start moving more directly into the aspersions. So
Okay.
I'll just start. I think I'm innocent. I just have to put that out there. I'm pretty sure I'm innocent. So then it's
Okay.
down to Asher and it's down to Oscar. So for Oscar, I could totally believe that he's actually holding back. I feel like he's actually going to say this was 10 out of 10. There were a bunch of camera shots and camera work that you guys, because you're such, noobs, you don't fucking know camera, like jargon and shit. You can't explain
nice,
this.
Lewis,
Yeah,
nice.
he's going to be like, you didn't notice this awesome shot and this awesome little tracking shot that really amplified this scene. And I feel like he's going to start dropping like all these truth bombs on the history, being like, this film set up this trope, it set up this, it moved this actor to this because his performance was so amazing. And you have touched on some of these things, but I feel like you're going to go into way more detail.
So you think I'm going to go up to 10?
I feel you're going to go up
Lewis,
to 10.
I'd agree. I don't
you're
think,
wrong, Lewis.
I don't think you're the Mafia because you've rated it the same as I have, and you've said all of the things that I think. You've actually gone before me in a lot of the discussion, and I've been left with very little to say because you've said exactly what I'm thinking.
So now
and
I
more.
have two mafiosos in cahoots with each other.
Yeah, and then Oscar,
conspiring against the innocent.
I think this is the 5th time you've seen this film, and the way you described it, you've actually got a very clear picture of this film now. You said that all of the plot points have really come into cemented detail, and with a fantastic film that you love, you can see it many, many times, and it gets better and better.
Yeah.
Just like books that I love, I can read them over and over again, and they just get better and better.
Yeah.
And I think that on this, you've come off. You've enjoyed our hospitality. You've seen the film. I think you've had a fantastic night, Oscar.
Yeah.
And I just want you to admit it.
Well, you're wrong on all accounts, Asher. I hated this evening. And that's probably what shocked me most. I think the first thing
that I
said,
hated this evening.
that I hated this evening. No, the first thing I think I said on this podcast was I was surprised that I picked up on more things that detracted from the film this time than things I enjoyed. On a technical level too, because The Godfather is rated one of the greatest films ever.
What
I remember
technical
you did
issues
say
did
that.
you have then? You're talking
You
about
said
the
about
camera.
the opening dubbing.
Yeah, but
in the
surely
trailer.
there's more than
I
that.
mentioned the opening dubbing. The main thing for me is all of the violence is handled horribly, and because they're such pivotal scenes, and I described in explicit detail how I love the build-up of tension. And this time, I don't know if I noticed it before. I don't think I did. I haven't seen this in about 4 or 5 years. So, I mean, I used to watch this when I was young. So, this is the first time after doing a film degree I've seen this movie, which again has given me a new lens. And those scenes were undercut by their kind of inadequacy technically. And I was like, every scene, I mean, and especially the last act where we were just looking at it like a comedy, which is why I really think
We did get a little giggly.
I was going to say it's Asher because you were so bored and you were fidgeting and you were twitching it on your phone. But then the last 30 minutes, you were cracking up and cracking me up.
Yeah.
And none of the dramatic moments, which I remember years ago, I used to watch and I was going, that's a powerful moment. And you were cracking wise and making jokes. And I was like, oh my God, these guys just think this is a joke. I was like, this is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God.
I can explain that because I feel that was just a consequence of the death scenes being over the top. That doesn't mean that I'm mocking it with my laughter. It's sort of just like I'm laughing because it's this is so out of the ordinary. It's almost like this doesn't make sense. That's how I was enjoying it. You know how it's comedy is related to tragedy or things that don't really make sense. That's how I was reacting because wow, these death scenes are so over the top. There's this guy, he's having his godchild being baptized and he's saying I embrace Jesus
I renounce
Christ.
Satan.
I'm against Lucifer. And then you see him, he's a mastermind. He's able to just be with his family while he's got all these boys going around killing all his rivals at the exact same time as he's going through this very important family,
But that's
true.
not funny.
No,
That's awful.
But I mean, that's just how I react to it because it's oh my gosh, this is insane. This dude is such a boss. He can go and just chill with his family, go through a normal routine, act like he's a good Catholic little boy with his family.
I'm intrigued that you're pushing off to that scene because the real scene I'm talking about is the funeral that prefaced this entire sequence you're talking
Well,
about.
that was different.
So
that was
exactly. It was really morose.
No,
and I was
no.
sitting there. I think I said I was like, "This is the most sad scene in the movie." Look
yeah.
at you
We
guys. Why were you all laughing?
We were cracking up because of something that happened in the
yeah,
scene
there were some
prior.
jokes that were going on. That was when.
Okay, that is true.
Yeah. Plus,
But during the Don's death scene.
Yeah. That was
I mean,
funny.
there were a lot of scenes where I was going
Yeah.
Oh my God, guys. Like, because there's scenes I used to think like were really, really gripping.
Well,
and
I do
dramatic.
think there was a bit of melodrama in this film, and I get a bit like laughy when I see
Sure.
like melodrama, but it doesn't mean I don't appreciate it. I feel like it has a place. And if the entire
if
film,
the joke comes to you, you've got to
Yeah.
say it.
exactly,
That's why a few times I was just cracking up because I wasn't saying it.
yeah,
I
but
mean, most of the time, Ashley was sitting there in stoic silence.
Yeah.
Or fidgeting or on your phone.
Jeez.
Or
Yeah.
eating chips.
And in that scene, I did still enjoy like the important parts where it was Telio or Tessio when he comes up to Michael
that
and
was
fulfills the
great.
prophecy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not laughing there because I'm like, oh God, that's like the cool
Yeah.
little payoff. You know, the Godfather has died, but he imparted this knowledge onto his son, and now his son is acknowledging that, being like, wow, my father was right, and this guy who I thought was so close to me and my family, he's going to betray us. And
Yeah.
then like Michael and his other sidekick or whatever, they see Telio go over to the other mob boss, and you know, it's like, wow, they're really going to try and get to me. I'm going to get to them. So I wasn't laughing during those scenes. It's more
Okay.
just like the pure melodrama of like, you know, oh, everyone's mourning and stuff. I just find that a bit over the top, but it doesn't mean I think it's
I
bad.
remember what it was now. One of the mob bosses looked like Ronald Reagan.
yeah.
And-
so
and
you were
actually-
saying shit like this. And
All I said was that guy looks like Ronald Reagan,
Yes,
and then you did the joke.
Exactly, and I started laughing, and then I started like, a lot of these scenes were kind of disemboweled by the way we were interpreting them as a group, and I was going like, oh, that's kind of silly. Like
Yeah.
this is actually kind of really silly, and I started laughing, being like,
Mr.
maybe
Don
this film's
Corleone,
and like
tear
that,
down this whatever it was.
tear down this funeral.
No. And then tear down these tomato plants, just like how you died.
yeah.
So then I started to be like, oh, okay, maybe this film's not as like cutting edge as I thought
Yeah.
it once was.
I
And
feel
it
like
kind of
I'm able to be like sort of like, you know, joke around with the boys, you know, having some bevies, throwing out some jokes and some bits and some goofs, and but at the
Bevies.
same time being like, oh well, I can appreciate the actual craft of this film and I can appreciate the way. I feel like I can do that.
Okay.
Where like even some of my like favorite like TV shows and movies where there's some like totally dramatic stuff, if it's like melodramatic, I can like laugh out loud at it. It doesn't. I don't think it takes away from
Think
it.
about Star Wars. Luke, whatever. Is this not a direct quote?
Star
I
Wars
am your
is
father.
not the Godfather.
No. But the iconic scenes in Star Wars that we think, oh yeah, fucking legit.
Yeah.
Every time that you watch it again, it just becomes less and less silly.
Yeah.
Not to say that we've seen this film at all.
You mean more and more silly?
Sorry, yes, more and more silly, less and less
So that
gripping.
was, yeah, I mean, that explains why I'm not raving about this movie, is because I've seen it 5 times. It's a movie made in 1972. And after a long time of not having seen it and going back after having watched a whole lot of, especially old movies, a lot of my course is like old movies that I look at technically, and a lot of them hold up better than this. So I was like, okay, this is strange. That was kind of the bedrock of my adverse react. Not adverse, but if you asked how old was I, like 16-year-old me, I would have been like, this is the greatest movie ever, because I was like, probably, you know, I didn't have the kind of the viewpoint I have now.
But that's my point. I feel like with like as you've learned all about cinema and history and studied the stuff and the
that
craft,
it's added to
yes,
it.
because when I think to Asher, like just being honest, I don't see anything about this film to me that is 10 out of 10. I see stuff that's very good and even great. And I can understand like some, I guess, sort of, not to be me, not you, but like some sort of Ponzi critics being like, wow, this scene was so pivotal.
definitely me.
And that's why I'm like, I feel like Asher and I are on the same wavelength where it's like, you know, this film was very good, even great at points, but there was nothing that was like totally remarkable that, at least for us who have
Yeah.
grown up, you know, mostly
See,
in the
just
2000s.
I just didn't either. And I thought I was excited when Asher asked me, because I thought like a rewatching would be like, it would make me like an 11. Because I would go back and go, oh, I'm noticing
Yeah.
all the stuff I never noticed before. But it was the reverse of that, where I was going, oh, I'm noticing things I didn't notice before, and it's like, oh, okay.
It's also for me because I don't think this film is one that Ash would rate 6, because he's like, you can show
Yeah,
Asher like a photo of like some
that's
ice
true.
cream and he'll be like, damn, that's at least a 7 out of 10 right there. So I feel like Asher's very willing to rate things. He enjoys things.
Seven
Asher enjoys
Samurai
things.
was like an 8
Yeah.
for
yeah.
you, wasn't it?
Yes,
Seven
you,
Samurai? Yeah.
you gave it an 8.
Yeah.
And
So, yeah.
and I don't. So yeah, that's the reason. I don't think Asher would give this a 10, but I likewise don't think he'd give it a 6 or lower. And so I feel like I have to go with you just because, like, maybe I'm basing this just on the fact that I know that you're very into film and all that stuff.
Right.
Sorry, you tapped
Again,
my foot. I thought you wanted to say something.
I'm more comfortable accusing Asher because he seemed bored. But again, you might just be a really good liar.
Well, I am, but that's beside the point.
Exactly.
That's beside the point, though.
I don't know if I'm more comfortable again accusing Asher or I don't know.
To defend me, I mean, Lewis can probably step in here, even though it would cast aspersion on yourself. Pretty much every single film I've looked like I've been disinterested. Just I've been fidgeting or this one.
Like, he does
you
that.
looked like that in Seven Samurai, and you ended up loving it.
And that's the thing. That's what happened in our previous episode. Spoilers for Oscar because he hasn't listened to it. But once again,
For everyone.
Yeah, but once again, Asher.
Everyone that's listening to this episode has obviously listened to the
they've
previous
listened to all the
episode.
episodes
I know
many
you
times.
guys.
Asher is usually very bad at this game, and so when he gets accused of being the mafia and people start making a case against him, he sort of just sits back and takes it. So he's rather bad at this game, and it usually fucks over
I'm
everyone.
also really bad at like having allies.
Explaining yourself, getting your words out.
Having allies and doing, let's get on this guy's team.
Yeah.
Let's get on this guy's
Well, this
team.
is just confirming my focus on you then.
Well, just right now, I don't know. I mean, I can understand Lewis's point against you, and I agree with it.
I can too, funnily enough. I
Let's vote.
understand. Because I did love Seven Samurai for those reasons that you listed.
From Lewis's behavior, I'm interested. I would not be surprised if you are the mafia. Not necessarily. I don't necessarily know what way.
Do you think I'd go up? Or
I don't know.
Sure?
I don't know. But I just from your behavior of being pretty eager to form an allyship with myself against Oscar. That came out pretty early in the accusations phase.
That was
you made a very
because
good case against Oscar in a very enthusiastic
I will admit,
manner.
as soon as the ratings came out, I was pretty set in my opinion. I was like, I'm pretty sure this is Oscar, just because I think Asher, when he gives an 8 out of 10, I think, okay, what sort of film would he give an 8 out of 10 to? He usually seems to, like the classic films, the ones that are usually highly regarded, he usually thinks of in
I've been
similar...
on one podcast.
I know. But I already know so much about you.
good,
Like, you're
Oscar.
studying film. Like, your performance on Seven Samurai was applauded by all that listened to it. Mostly,
right.
Wow.
mostly
A
lot of
Asher,
feedback.
Asher and Andrew. They were all like, wow, you
I
just knew
hadn't
so much
seen
about
Seven
the craft.
Samurai.
Exactly, but you knew
So-
so much about it, and you were able to like go through, like use all the jargon of like, oh, this shot here, this, the mise en scene, like, okay, maybe it's not that impressive, but to me, like, hearing all the jargon come out, it's like this guy has a real appreciation for film, and The Godfather is one of those films considered an absolute classic, just like Seven Samurai.
I
And
know
that's
what you
why
mean.
I'm just stuck on you.
But again, I had the basis of my appreciation for Seven Samurai was the fact that it was made in 1954, and I was watching a 3.5 hour 1954 movie. I love a lot of 70s movies. I love 70s cinema, and The Godfather, it is one of those, like, it is in the same lists I would have talked about that Seven Samurai is in, but again, I will not excuse it for things I will excuse Seven Samurai for, and I will not praise it for the similar things that Seven Samurai did, because 20 years is an age.
Apart from the death scenes and the opening like dubbing scene, what other like technical issues would you comment upon?
I don't know. Well, maybe it is technical. No, not really. The pacing,
Okay.
the story structure.
Yeah.
I think it was weird. Like, there's a lot of, I simultaneously enjoy and don't enjoy the fact that, like, you set up a story. Tom needs to go to California to convince the film producer, and then you have like a 20-minute story, and you have the whole thing. And I was like, okay, so you go through that whole thing, and then you have like another subplot. I can't. There was another one I had in mind, Michael going to Italy almost. It's like you have this whole thing, and I'm like, okay. And again, Seven Samurai doesn't have the counterpoint in the same genre that I love, where Goodfellas is one of my like soul movies, that it's like a mob movie, and everything I'm going, this is faster paced, this is better, this character development's better. And it's not just the fact that I'm juxtaposing it with Goodfellas, but I'm going like, this could be better because I've seen it done better.
Okay.
And again, it's telling a different story. It's telling a different time period too. But the most enjoyment I get out of Godfather still to this day is Marlon Brando. And this is the first time I really realized how diminished his role in it is too. And I was like, okay, it's a great movie. I really do love this movie.
Okay.
I do love it. I think it's a great movie. And not in the same way that I thought Seven Samurai was, when I just thought like, like this is just magnificent. This is revolutionary. This is a film that I think was influenced a lot by its contemporaries. This is when Stanley Kubrick was starting to make movies. This was released into a lot of, a very, talented sphere of filmmaking, where I'm like, okay, now I'm referring to this in a very specific way. But again, like, you're right. I'm finding flaws where I can find them.
Okay, that's difficult because I do, like, you have gone on quite a bit about how you're like, oh, this is less than The Goodfellas, which is one of my favorite films.
The Goodfellas.
Wasn't it?
Goodfellas.
Goodfellas.
It's so the British version.
It's the Goodfellas.
The Goodfellas.
The
Sorry.
Godfather and the Godfellows.
I guess I am still stuck on the ratings because I don't see this film as being something that Ash would say is just all right. You gave this an
No.
8 out of 10, correct?
Look, I gave him an honest 8 out of 10. I am not the Mafia, Lewis.
Okay.
Oscar might be the Mafia. You might be
But
the
I
Mafia.
don't know if you're going to go up or down because you had a very similar opinion with me about Seven Samurai. So I think you've
I'm
gone
not
up
going to
too.
go up or down. I am not the Mafia.
Oscar, how about this? Lewis, how about this?
Okay.
Lewis, you vote for Andrew. I mean, Oscar.
I'll vote for Andrew. We all lose.
Lewis, you vote for Oscar. Oscar, you vote for Lewis.
And that makes you safe.
And then, well, I mean, of course it makes me safe, but that's
Why
irrelevant.
would you want us to vote for each other? Don't you want to catch the
Because
mafia?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of do know, although I don't. I
What
have
do you
my
mean?
suspicions.
Who do you think
Oscar,
it is?
look, just a quick aside to Oscar, Olive Branch, don't take this as evidence that he himself is the Mafia and masterminding because he always does stupid shit like this where he's
Okay.
always desperate for alliances and it's like, that makes
I'm
him
not
more...
desperate for alliances. I'm just going to say...
But that's what you're doing. You're like, you both vote for each other and then I'll jump onto whoever
Yeah,
I want.
look,
That's
what do
being
you
desperate
mean?
for
Just,
alliances.
look,
We
I
have to
know
build a
who-
majority against someone,
yeah.
and I still can't tell who it is.
I think it's Lewis.
Oh, fuck
Lewis-
you. You've been going on about Oscar this
I know,
entire
but
time.
he did a really excellent job explaining the context of this film.
It's
and
because
his
he
enjoyment
loves
of it.
this film and he respects the history of it.
No, but because I don't believe it's Asher because he's having the exact same response he did to Seven Samurai, which is just kind of like unenthusiastically stating why it's good. Whereas you're
Because
like,
I think this is Asher being bad at the game and you are playing him. I think you are the
Lewis,
Mafia.
I think you fucking dug this film. I think
I
that-
did. It's
yeah,
an 8 out of 10.
You
I
were
know,
making
no.
notes until the last scene.
I know, because like that's what I do. Plus, I write big sometimes, so it's not like I'm writing a bunch
10,
of pages.
Lewis, I think you could have given this a 10 out of 10.
I
I
did
think
not.
you did.
And I think Oscar, I think a 10 out of 10 from you is extremely rare.
I don't think I would give a 10 out of 10.
I wouldn't be surprised if Oscar gave a 10 out of 10 to a film that is studied absolutely all throughout high school and cinema and university. I would
To
not be surprised.
death, though.
For
What?
shame.
What do you mean
Lewis.
to death?
Well, studied to death. I don't think you could give a...
The Godfather
No.
is highly regarded as like a top 10
No, but
film
like
by
that's
so many
not,
people.
That's not this is a flawed. Like most of the greatest movies ever are flawed. They're the greatest movies ever because they were the greatest movies ever to the mainstream audience. You know, that
I'm
they
not
were
saying-
movies like widely
I
received.
don't think that you're lying about your flaws. I think you're just withholding your actual appreciation because to
I
me a
always
10 out
lie
of 10
about my flaws.
a 10 out of like to me a 10 out of 10 is not something that's perfect. It's just it has a higher ratio of, you know, great things compared to bad or average things. So I
Okay.
think all of your issues, which I share, you know, the issues with pacing, I didn't really make the connection, but yeah, the idea of the only thing I actually enjoyed
that,
with
that
the
furthers my argument because my 10 is perfection, and
Because-
there are movies that are
because you
technically
are using
perfect.
those flaws to say, hey, look, I'm pointing out these flaws, therefore I have to have rated an 8 out of 10. But I'm saying, no, I think, even though you do think those flaws are real, that you're actually holding back, you think there are a string of other things about this film being 10 out of 10. Like I said, some camera shots, some ideas of writing, some like iconic lines and scenes that that Asher and I both
that
enjoy.
you think will override
that
the
I
flaws.
feel like I've got to totally override it.
Okay, I'm here to tell you, Lewis.
Okay.
I will not give a film a 10 if I can find any technical flaw with it.
That
That doesn't
absurd
make
to
sense.
me. That is absurd to me. A 10 out
That
of 10
doesn't
is
make
just like
sense.
a 10 out of 10 to me is I'll explain a 10 out of 10 to
Seven
me.
Samurai was like as close I will cut. I gave it a
Wow.
9 because there were things wrong with that movie, but it was like that is as good as you can basically get in a mainstream global best of all time movie. You know what I mean?
Would you rate any piece of media a 10 out of 10? Like a TV show, a book, movie?
Paintings?
Okay.
Well, I mean, that's possible as
Art
well.
Mafia.
Yeah.
There are. Okay. I will preface this by saying I'm not as educated about any other medium than I am film.
Yeah.
I have trained myself to be able to pick out shit that's wrong with these kinds of movies.
Yeah.
You know, so I find something in The Godfather where I'm like, that's inherently not correct.
Mm-hmm.
And that just takes away from like the 100% for me. And it was the same with Seven Samurai. I love that basically as much as I can love a movie, but I'm not going to give it a 10 because that very rarely does exist. There is like 1984, the novel, 10 out of 10, but I'm no expert. I just think for me, when I read that book, I was like, there was nothing wrong with that for me. That was just perfect.
Okay.
But again, it's a very different medium because you're dealing with the visual, you're dealing with, you know, you can write, he was shot in the head, and my brain goes, he was shot in the head. You watch someone get shot in the head and I go,
Yeah, there's
that's
a lot more-
fucking fake.
Yeah, there's a lot more
And there
details
was
to deal
so
with.
many times in this movie where I was like, that's just not real. And I got sucked out of it.
It's just when you've pointed out your negatives, like I can understand some of the issues with the pacing, but it's like this is a 3-hour film, so I think when anything gets stretched out that long, there are going to be some issues. And even like the death scenes, it's like those were like very minute. I think it was more the impact, like the actual significance of the death scenes themselves occurring, like intermittently amongst all the, the intimidation scenes and the political power meetings. I don't think that you really cared too much about the actual portrayal or the execution of the death scenes. I think you were more just like, I appreciate that the death scene is occurring here and that it's over the top and it's signifying this is a big moment in the film. I don't think you would have really cared too much for the detail of those scenes which last like 10 seconds. I feel like there are so many other things that you would be like, this carries the film far past that.
I think you're focusing on me either because you genuinely don't believe it's Asher, or you're just trying to convince Asher now, because you're not trying to accuse Asher.
Well, it's both. I don't think it's Asher just because
he's trying to convince you that you're the Mafia.
Yeah, you need to vote me. I just don't. Maybe I'm also just being biased because I'm like, I know Asher, and I don't think there's anything he saw here that was groundbreaking, and I don't think there was anything here that he saw as being deflating enough for this film, for like a 3-hour film to just be all right. That would be sort of deflating. It's like, wow, I just dedicated 3 hours of my time to this. Yeah. So I feel like an 8 is just the perfect rating that I expect him to give.
But the fact that you just said films can be imperfect and be a 10,
yes, of course,
if they transcend certain things, means I totally think you rated it a 10.
Okay, yes.
With all of the positives you said, I just totally think you enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is what I agree with.
Yeah.
That Lewis, you've critiqued Oscar's position, but Oscar's position is actually the position that you hold. The Oscar's fake position that you're.
The only difference here is that
only
difference here is that I do not have all of the cinema craft knowledge as Oscar. So that's why the things that I enjoy.
You would rate it a 10.
And that is my thought too.
The things that I enjoyed about this film, making it an 8 out of 10. I think there are many more details that I wouldn't have picked up on that allowed you to enjoy those scenes more, pushing it up to a 10 out of 10. I understand how you could take my criticism and turn it around on me, but I do not have the baggage of being, a cinema student who prides themselves. Like we were talking about Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and you said you hadn't seen it, and you just listed off like the 2 main stars and like basically got like the exact date it came out. Like that shows just how dedicated you are to this medium. Oh. So it's like, I think there are just too many little signs I've seen where it's like, no, Oscar loves cinema, and I think like so many people consider this one of the greatest films ever. Sure. I think you're in that train.
Me being dedicated to this medium makes me brave enough to call out shit that's wrong.
And I don't think that you think this is wrong.
So brave. Yes, bravery exists.
It's a thankless job,
it makes me comfortable saying I don't think this is a 10. And I'm not saying I didn't enjoy the movie. I love The Godfather. As I say, like, I think a few, like, early on, I didn't quite get it. And then the second and third time I watched it was trying to make it a 10. Because I want a movie to be perfect. I'm always wanting a 10. But, it's just not a 10 for me.
Asher, look, I've already made my case.
You're like the mediator now.
Asher's... I feel like Asher's like...
Okay, no, I'm not going to...
I think Asher is the confirmed villager at this point.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just by default, just because Oscar and myself have been going at it for a while.
I think he's just being silent because he feels safe now, maybe. I don't know.
I'm safe because I'm honest and not the Mafia.
Asher, look. I'm
tired, okay?
Almost every single Cinemafia episode we've done, you have always accused me. I made my point in the Seven Samurai episode. I think this is because I've known you for like 10 years and you think you know me better than you actually do. We're like, I know this guy so well.
Personal ties to make your case.
Well, the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? So that I know you so well.
Yeah, because you're like, I totally know when he's lying. And you've only been right one time. Every other time you've accused me, it has never been me. And look, I am asking you...
I'm trying to work on those odds, all right?
Look, I am asking you... Look, okay, I promise I am not the Mafia. I swear to God. I swear to the Godfather. I am not the Mafia.
You mean your favorite film at 10 out of 10? You swear to that film that it's not me?
Exactly. Wow. I swear to the Godfather. I am not the Mafia, and I need you to vote with me against Oscar because you are going to find out.
Don't listen to this.
Listen,
bullshit.
Boys, girls. I'm not going to say which one.
I'm not on my knees begging you, being like, Ash, you have been through so much shit together.
This is my point.
Over
Oscar, when he is the Mafia, when Asher is the Mafia, he just sits back. When Asher is the Mafia, he sort of just sits back and he's like, oh yeah, I guess everyone thinks I'm the Mafia. So this is me making the point, getting animated, being like, Asher, you need to vote for the Mafia. It's not me. You're going to find out that I'm going to give you my card. It is not going to be the red card. Oh my gosh, you're going to vote...
Shall we vote Don Corleone?
Asher.
I think we should vote.
Asher, you are going to get fucked up.
Why are you not wanting us to vote?
Dude, no, I'm not threatening violence against you.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna fuck you up.
Okay, look, Asher.
Yeah.
If you
Getting violent is a sure sign of guilt, I would say.
Asher, look, if you're not here, if Andrew's not here and he finds out that the villagers once again lose, he's going to be fucking disappointed in you. And
I
I'm
just
not
took
using
up.
this just as a guilt. I am not the fucking mafia.
Lewis.
What do you want to ask me anything to help you make your decision?
No, I think you've given me everything you could. Oscar, tell me, are you the mafia?
No.
Why couldn't he say that straight? Why did he have to laugh?
Because I thought you were on board with the fact that I'm not mafia.
Oscar, Lewis just bared his heart to me. Mm-hmm. Can you do that?
Asher, I have not been your best friend for a decade and a half. I'm sorry. You don't know me as well as you know Lewis.
No.
Maybe that means I'm deceiving you. But I just...
He's being sarcastic to cover the truth because he knows he
I'm
can't do
being
a compelling
I'm
performance.
out of
So he
ener-
has to play it off as a joke when really he's trying to be
I am
he's trying
out
to be real
of
with you
energy
right now.
defending this film as an 8. I thought this
Yeah.
film was an 8 out of 10.
Guys.
I love The Godfather. I just don't think it's a 10 out of 10. Or I don't think it's a bad movie or an average movie.
Don't say what you think, Asher. Let's vote. Let's vote and we'll
That's
find
right.
out
That's what I
what
was going to say. I think
Okay,
we should
cool.
vote.
Okay, cool. Let's
Sure.
vote.
I've already written down.
Asher, please do
Let
not
me
fuck
take
this
the
up.
time to elucidate my suspicions.
Okay. And Oscar, just before we give our ratings, if it's not you, then fair play.
Well, if the mafia's not me.
If it's not you, then fair play because
It
Asher,
isn't me.
If it's not
Don't-
you, then fair play because Asher has totally got
That's
us.
a weird thing to say before being found guilty.
Because
Guys,
I'm not going.
I'm not the mafia. Let's vote.
Well, who is it?
I'm not the mafia.
This movie's a 10 out of 10.
Oh, fuck. So I voted for Lewis. Lewis voted for
This
Oscar.
movie's amazing!
Fuck.
This is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Wait, guys, it's okay because I wrote Oscar on the other side.
Oh my
Look.
gosh!
Too late.
Oh,
It's too
Fuck
late.
you, Asher. You always let us down.
Asher,
Fuck you.
I feel dirty after what I just did.
fuck.
I love this movie.
Go on.
Go off.
This camera, this camera, this camera.
Every single shot is in place. This is like a level of visual storytelling hitherto unseen.
I knew you'd go into
in
detail
the
about the
world.
shots.
You were right.
Yep.
I was struggling so hard to contain myself,
God
especially
damn
after 6 Dark Monteith beers. I thought the truth was coming out, but maybe it just emboldened me to lie.
Yep.
Damn
Asher,
it. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'll never
Lewis-
lie to you outside of this
Wait,
room.
wait. Lewis, your line of questioning was
Perfect.
perfect. It was. It was
Yep.
fantastic.
You were absolutely on spot.
Yep. And what-
I was so back to the point. I was like, fuck.
But
Exactly.
But Oscar did a great job defending it, and then he did the genius thing of turning it around
Yep.
on you. That you're actually
I
projecting.
thought I did a
It
good
was
enough
genius,
defense
wasn't
being
it?
like,
Yeah.
okay,
Fuck this
yes,
movie.
you
It
could
was.
make that,
Fuck you.
but he's the film stud. He's the guy that's into all this stuff, so it makes more sense for this to apply to him than
And I
myself.
was on it, all right? I was like, actually, I
damn.
think that this viewing of the film, our hospitality,
Yeah.
enhanced it so much for you, and that it was a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Is that the case? That this was the best
Well,
viewing for you?
The problem with my whole argument now is I just lied in the fact that I do find films a 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
totally don't care about technicality.
Exactly.
But that's ruined Cinemafia for me because that was my main argument.
Yeah.
I relied on this entire time.
Yeah.
So for the record, in the future, I'll have to defend on more specific terms because I can get past technicalities.
Yeah.
I am by no means a film scholar. I'm very much a Western. I love schlock. I love cheesy movies.
Did you
I
actually
love
have
this
an
kind of
issue with
stuff.
the death scenes, or were you exaggerating?
I do. I exaggerated them. It doesn't really bother me.
Yeah.
It's just a sign of the times.
Yeah.
There's like I said in the 70s, there's a level of technicality that goes beyond this. Not really.
Yeah.
Most shit in the 70s, like this is pretty much the gold standard.
Yeah.
Technically, but just the production design within the first scene, all of the costumes, and as you said, I agree with the fact that there's no fancy camera work.
Yeah.
There's no like camera movement, but the camera is basically static and every shot is perfectly composed like a painting. It just looks magnificent and you get so much information just out of that. Like you think of the very first scene in The Godfather's office.
Yeah.
Sorry for being the microphone.
Fuck.
You can tighten the thing on the side so it stops
yeah,
being.
it's-
I was going to say,
Oh, there it is.
throughout
Yeah,
this
yeah.
entire
Totally, yeah.
recording,
This-
Oscar hasn't been holding the microphone, but the moment he's now
Yeah,
out and
Gripping
about,
it,
the moment he pops
gripping
the
my life
microphone,
depends on it.
his veins are popping out.
My eyes are bulging like Luca Brasi.
Like, look, this is your time. Go off. What do you think about the film?
Okay, so I was just going to say the first shot in the Don's office. This beautiful, what this movie is. It's a royal drama. It's a royal thing. It's like a filmic negative of like a Game of Thrones, where this is illegal royalty. All these people are in fervor over these people, but it's a dirty kind of royalty.
Yeah,
it's a political kind of thing. But the Don's office is beautiful, gold and red and shadowed and murky and beautifully decorated. The last scene, Michael's office is like a desk with a white carpet in a brown room, and it's like he's at level 1. And it's like the difference between him and his dad. His dad at the start with people clamoring around him. Michael's there at the end of the movie, but he hasn't quite earned it. These people are just doing it off reputation. It's like, get ready for part 2. Watch part 2. It's just as good.
Since we're actually not going to be reviewing that, do you prefer part 1 or part 2? Just out of interest.
Okay, one of the very true things I said was I haven't seen either of these in about 4 or 5 years, before I started studying cinema.
Yeah.
From what I can recall, both of these films had merged into one. At several points I was like, I can't remember if that was in the first or second.
Yeah, I remember
because
saying.
they are totally on par. What the second one does is introduce a young Robert De Niro playing a young Don Corleone. It's the only time, I think, still in cinema history, that 2 actors have won an Oscar for playing the same character.
Wow.
So he plays a young Don. Marlon Brando won the Oscar for this. And Robert De Niro wins it for that. And he plays a young Don. He's perfect. It's like Robert De Niro's breakout role.
Huh.
I don't know if it was before Taxi Driver, actually. I don't know. But part 2 is magnificent. It's just as good, if not better. People do say it's the best sequel of all time, and people say it's better.
Okay.
I haven't seen it recently enough to comment. It's magnificent. And there are moments in that movie that I quote on an almost daily basis.
Yeah. Were there any other things in this film that you were holding back on that you can now release, that you really loved about this film, but you had to keep quiet?
Basically, all of the dialogue, every single performance.
Okay.
And as Asher said, I did think the females were quite subdued, and it's weird watching it nowadays and being like, okay, so it's very much a masculine film, but I guess it's a masculine world they're portraying.
Like the Mafia world looks very patriarchal, so it totally makes sense.
Exactly. I'm at a loss for words because I love everything in this movie. It's a fucking 10.
Okay, if I had to ask, what is your favorite individual scene and your favorite individual line from the film?
Oh... Okay, individual scene is the scene I described where they do the hit on Paulie.
Okay.
Driving from the Don's house out into, there's this beautiful shot where in the foreground there is this, I don't know what it's like flat, like
It's wheat.
Yeah,
wheat field. Exactly, it's wheat fields. And and so in the background there's wheat all across, Statue of Liberty, wheat here.
Yeah.
People listening don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But this car drives and is framed by the foregrounded wheat and the backgrounded wheat, and it's like this entrapment.
This
and
was
like,
the fanciest camera work.
It was exactly, and it's you're entrapped in the wheat. This guy's locked in. It's too late. He's out in the middle of buttfuck nowhere. He's in the rural lands. He's screwed. The Statue of Liberty is just in the background, heralding his doom.
Yeah.
It's magnificent, and you just know what's going to happen. The car screeches to a halt. Only diegetic sound. There's no strings building up. He's going to fucking die. Aside from that, Marlon Brando's dialogue, I love it all. I love his delivery.
Did you have a favorite line?
My favorite line...
Yeah, because there's so many great one-liners in this film.
I don't want to be cliched, but you can't really go past, I'm going to make it enough.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
just perfect.
And just the way he says it. Just
so casual. And Michael's set it up about 2 minutes before. He's told the story of what it
It was
means.
so perfect. How would you recreate the delivery?
Boys, settle down. Settle down. Settle down. Settle down.
Oh!
Settle down. Settle down. Settle down.
Okay, here you go.
I'm going. I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse. I've done better. That was okay.
It's like,
It wasn't bad.
it was
was
Marlon
fine.
Brando after an aneurysm or something.
Okay. Hey, Oscar, look. Okay, you got a bit carried away with your success. There's no need for rude comments like that. Okay.
Oh boy.
Well, look. Congratulations, Oscar. Even though I was
Thank
suspicious
you,
of you,
thank you.
at the same time, I was mostly suspicious just because of the rating. You were actually, in terms of acting, you were the Marlon Brando of this little table.
Wow.
Because
Damn right.
High
I
praise.
was thinking like, damn, he does seem to have conviction behind what he's saying. Like, you were getting a bit nervous, but it's like maybe that's just him. Maybe like he does just laugh, like under pressure, even when he's actually being
And I
innocent.
was looking
was
at you,
genuinely
damn,
nervous.
you do not look like you've just sunk 6 beers at all.
Yeah,
Even if
exactly.
you were the Mafia, at that point I'm like, yeah, no, he's probably telling the truth, because how could he lie on that much
Thank you,
alcohol?
Asher.
Yeah,
I've got a
exactly.
drinking problem.
Yeah.
I appreciate
So
it.
congratulations. Asher, once again, you have fucked up the result of the Mafia
You
game.
did fuck that one up.
10 episodes in, it's our 10th episode anniversary. You have still not won a single game. You have always lost.
I won one
No, you haven't.
by not dying.
Yes, dude, that doesn't count. You
Like
idiot.
this time.
We went.
When I didn't die.
Yeah, Asher. Like as much as I want to applaud Oscar, and he deserves all the plaudits he can get. Asher, you need to get better at this game, or else look, we're going to replace you with like Abdullah or something. I think he's going to have to come in and be you.
Yeah.
Look, guys, Cinemafia has a really great future ahead of it.
Yeah, we've
Because
got a real
it's not
grassroots support.
It's not
really
just
great.
myself, Andrew, and Lewis. We've got Oscar, we've got Abdullah, we've got a few other guys who you'll be seeing in the future.
They'll be hearing.
The family's growing.
Fuck.
Welcome to the family.
I quite
That
like.
was good. That was good. He was going to say he liked my performance better, especially my big dramatic build-up. Yeah, especially with
The
like
10-second pause.
yeah, with the showers of you guys laughing, it really builds up suspense, and then there's more silence in between it.
Well,
as
I
I'm-
can't see your
and,
facial
and then I let
expressions.
out my little. Like it's just perfect. There's so much tension behind it. The directors were
I was
fantastic in
dying.
building up this scene of me giving my.
I
delivery.
had to like lean over in the chair to like basically partially wind myself so I didn't randomly laugh away from the microphone. God damn it, Lewis, you're an artist.
Yep, and yeah. So
Aren't we
Fuck
all?
you, Oscar.
congratulations, Oscar. Only your second performance. You've
you,
already gotten
thank
away
you.
being the Mafia. Asher, congratulations. You continue to fuck up everything. You always betray me. You always accuse me. I'm sick of you. And
That's
that
right,
is.
guys. Follow me
And then it won't have his actual thing.
on Instagram for more fuckery.
I'll edit that out, so it'll just say follow me, and then it won't have his actual thing. Guys, thanks for joining us for the 10th episode of Cinemafia. I have been your host, Lewis.
I am not your host. I'm an idiot. I'm called Asher.
I'm the Podfather. Thank you for having me.
That was our Mafia member, Oscar.
Thank you, Oscar.
We'll see you guys next time when we shall be reviewing Chronicle, directed by Josh Trank and written by Max Landis. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.